there's one thing that every Doctor Who fan must do. It's convert as many people to the fandom as possible. But where should you tell them to start from? Well, actually, don't tell them anything. Just send them this video. I'm Ellie with WhoCulture here with 10 perfect places to start watching Doctor Who. Number 10. The Woman Who Fell to Earth. The 11th series of the revived era saw one of the biggest reboots in its history. The showrunner changed, the producers changed, the writers changed. In fact, pretty much everything changed. The biggest change of all was Jodie Whittaker as the first female Doctor. New showrunner Chris Chibnall promised that this would be a good point for non-fans to get into the series, and he wasn't wrong. Along with all the changes in personnel, Series 11 featured 0 returning characters and villains, and largely abandoned connections to the show's history. The series featured 10 standalone episodes and little in the way of a story arc, meaning that anyone could jump in each week and follow along with ease. This, along with the lack of returning elements, meant that viewers needn't know anything about the previous 55 years of Who. Now, while this obviously makes it a good jumping on point for newbies, the decision to disconnect from Doctor Who lore almost makes it feel like a different show at times. If you want a more quintessential Doctor Who experience, then there are better places to start. Number 9. An Unearthly Child. Want to start watching Doctor Who? Well, if you're feeling brave, then go right back to 1963 and start with An Unearthly Child, the very first story. To start at the beginning takes no prior knowledge at all, as was the case for those watching on the 23rd of November 1963. This allows you to be enveloped by the mystery and wonder of the Doctor and the TARDIS, and knowing how big the show would become makes it feel even more special to experience the one that started it all. The pacing is a lot slower and it lacks the humour and high production values of the modern series, but if older television works for you, then it makes sense to just go to the beginning and watch the entire show. The major downside of doing it this way is that many of those early episodes are missing from the BBC archives, so it's impossible to get a complete picture of the first and second Doctors. As of recording, we've actually just learned that An Unearthly Child will be missing from the classic collection on BBC iPlayer, although you can still watch it on BritBox and ITVX for the time being, as well as physical media too. So if you're a completionist, then the missing episodes are an important factor to consider. Number 8. The 60th anniversary / Series 14. With Doctor Who coming to Disney Plus for the 60th anniversary onwards, it's likely that many newcomers will board the show, and based on everything we know so far, it'll be a solid place to start. Though the new Doctor is played by previous Doctor Who star David Tennant and the new showrunner Russell T Davies has been the showrunner before, it's still a creative reset both in front of and behind the camera. And while the 60th anniversary will continue plot threads last seen in Series 4, the trailers have recapped all the key information, and the show will no doubt do the same. If Donna remembers the Doctor, she will die. That's really all you need to know. Once the 3 60th anniversary specials are over, Ncuti Gatwa will take the lead from the 2023 Christmas special, with his first full series airing sometime next year. This will be another ideal place to start, since you'll get to see the 15th Doctor's journey from the very beginning. Unlike The Woman Who Fell to Earth, the 60th anniversary and Series 14 are gearing up to be reboots that still incorporate past elements of the show. And with the best production values in its history and an award-winning writer at the helm, the pieces are in place for this to be Doctor Who at its very best. Number 7. Smith and Jones. While Smith and Jones marked the beginning of David Tennant's second series, it's a lot more accessible than his first. When Tennant took over the TARDIS at the end of Series 1, he also inherited the companion Rose. So as a starting point, new viewers may feel that they're being thrown into the middle of a story. Conversely, Smith and Jones starts with the 10th Doctor on his own before meeting new companion Martha Jones. The stories that would follow are a perfect blend of what the show is about, with some of the best historical and future set adventures in the modern era, as well as the introduction of the iconic Weeping Angels. There's also a taste of some great Doctor Who baddies, with a 2-part Dalek story in the middle of the series, and the shock return of a classic character in the epic 3-part finale. But there's no spoilers here, so we won't tell you who. Neither of these stories require prior knowledge, making them an ideal way for new fans to experience some of Doctor Who's most famous villains. Tennant is a fan favourite Doctor for a reason, so starting with him is a very good way to get hooked. Number 6. The Rebos Operation. Tom Baker was the actor who served as the Doctor the longest, so in terms of starting points, he has a fair few overlapping seasons. His first 3 seasons saw him travelling with the iconic companion Sarah Jane Smith, but since she joined the TARDIS with Baker's predecessor, we'd recommend jumping ahead for a much cleaner 4th Doctor starting point. Kicking off with the Rebos Operation, Season 16 partners the the Doctor with fellow Time Lord Romana, a brand new companion. Together, they break the generic Doctor-companion relationship as the Doctor is now travelling with one of his own kind. Season 16 is also unique in that it's one of the few classic seasons to feature an ongoing arc, with the Doctor and Romana enlisted by the White Guardian to find all 6 segments of the powerful key to time and keep them out of the hands of the Black Guardian. This long-form storytelling rewards you for sticking with each serial, and with one of the greatest Doctors of all time at the helm, the Rebos Operation is one of the better classic starting points. Number 5. The Pilot. The Pilot marked the beginning of the 10th series of the revived era, and the final series to feature Peter Capaldi's 12th Doctor. Due to still travelling with the 11th Doctor's companion Clara, Capaldi's first 2 series felt linked to what had come before. But for his final run, showrunner Stephen Moffat announced that Doctor Who would be softly rebooted, making it a good place for new fans to start. It's arguably Capaldi's strongest series too. The Pilot kicks off by introducing new companion Bill Potts, played delightfully by Pearl Mackie. Throughout the series, we see several characters and villains return in surprising ways, along with plenty of strong original concepts such as the emoji bots and zombie spacesuits. The 12th Doctor is such a charming incarnation too, and Capaldi appears to have more fun here than he did in his first 2 years. It's easy to watch, but also thematically rich, with the devastating 2-part finale representing Doctor Who at its very best. Plus, in terms of catching up, you only have 4 series to watch if you start from here, so it's not a huge time investment. Number 4. Spearhead from Space. Doctor Who spent its first 7 years in black and white, but when Jon Pertwee became the Doctor in Spearhead from Space, the show switched to colour, and that wasn't the only significant change to the formula. With the Doctor exiled on Earth and lacking the ability to fly the TARDIS, he became a scientific advisor for UNIT, an organisation that protects the Earth from alien threats. This fresh approach is the perfect place for a rookie to dive into classic Doctor Who. This era saw the introduction of countless iconic characters like the Master, the Silurians and the Sontarans, so you'll get a thorough schooling on Doctor Who lore. Sarah Jane Smith, arguably the most popular companion of all time, also debuted alongside the 3rd Doctor, while the legendary Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart became a regular feature. And that's without even mentioning Pertwee's highly entertaining performance as the Doctor. I have 2 words for you: Venusian Aikido. With a new Doctor in a new scenario, Spearhead from Space is a very accessible start. Plus, all the episodes after this point are present in the BBC archives, unlike many in the black and white era. Number 3. The Wibbly Wobbly method. Ooh, I like the sound of that one. Let's say you want to start watching Doctor Who, but you don't want to commit to a full series. Maybe you want to watch a few different episodes first to see if the show's for you. This is a great way for hardcore fans to get their casual friends on board, as it allows you to pick and choose the greatest the show has to offer. We're dubbing this the Wibbly Wobbly method because you'll be jumping around between different Doctors and eras. What does Wibbly Wobbly mean? Well, you'll find out if you start with our first recommendation here, Blink, a phenomenal standalone story featuring the Weeping Angels, along with some of the most fascinating use of time travel in the whole show. Other stories we'd recommend trying out include The Girl in the Fireplace, City of Death, Vincent and the Doctor, and Mummy on the Orient Express, none of which are heavy on series arc material or require prior knowledge, but all of which are fantastic. Number 2. Rose. There's almost no better place to get into Doctor Who than the first episode of the 2005 revival. Doctor Who adapts for the 21st century with a new style and a new Doctor. With most classic stories comprising 4 25-minute episodes, the revival went with the much more digestible option of standalone 45-minute episodes, or 2 of them for a 2-part story. This made the show tighter and more fast-paced than ever before. The 9th Doctor explodes onto the screen, almost literally, as a man of mystery, and the genius decision to kick things off from companion Rose's point of view allows you to see the magic of the Doctor as she does, and by the end of that first episode, you'll be as desperate for more adventures as she is. Despite getting into some truly bonkers sci-fi, the series also feels incredibly grounded. There are a lot of stories set on contemporary Earth, with romance, modern humour, and relatable characters galore. Have you ever got emotional over a tree lady? Well, you're about to. Rose was a massive success for a reason. It reinvigorated Doctor Who and generated legions of new fans in the process. It works just as well as a starting point today as it did back in 2005. Number 1. The 11th Hour. The 11th Hour saw the dawn of a new era in the revived show. With David Tennant departing as the Doctor, relative unknown Matt Smith took the reins, bringing a new companion, a new TARDIS, and some new series arcs with him. Now, as with many selections on this list, the fact that the 11th Hour is a soft reboot makes it an ideal first episode for newbies. But what earns it the #1 slot is that it's the greatest debut story in the show's history. Smith is instantly winning as the 11th Doctor, and the way his connection with Amy Pond unfolds does a remarkable job of investing you in this new Doctor Who leading duo. There's a magical quality about this episode, and the series as a whole, that feels universal, but still retains the core qualities that make Doctor Who so special. As a bonus, the 11th hour still feels modern by today's standards, so those accustomed to the latest TV won't find it jarring to start with. The production design, writing, and special effects all hold up very well 13 years later. This episode also marked the beginning of certain plot threads that would stretch all the way to the 11th Doctor's final story, so it's a good one for hooking people long term. All in all, there's no better place to start watching Doctor Who. And there you have it. Now, if you are going to start watching at the 60th anniversary, or you've just forgotten things, then make sure that you check out our recap of everything you need to know before the 60th anniversary, which will be on the channel very, very soon, so keep your eyes peeled. In the meantime, I've been Ellie with WhoCulture, and in the words of River Song herself, goodbye, sweeties.